supposed to know where the balloons and streamers are. This is your job. You're the one who's supposed to be putting together my birthday party. If you don't know where it is, then go and ask Hades, not me. Don't ask me. And if you touch my fabric scissors, you will get it. If I find you've used my fabric scissors on paper, that's it. It's all over for you. Got it? Good. Hello. Hello, how are you? It's my birthday in a few weeks. And they're trying to organise a birthday party. But they seem to think I'm the one who should organise it and not my husband. Go ask the person sitting on these easy chair and carpet slippers with the dog. Not me. He can do one thing. Honestly, I think they're a bit scared of him. He does have a tendency to sort of just, dispose of them at will when he wishes to. So I think they're a little bit scared of him. Yes, more scared than they are of me. I'm soft and cuddly. Anyway, we are here. We are here with a play. Now, I know. I said I would give you a stretch to the imagination, but we're going to do that later because I found another play, a Greek play, that I wanted to do instead. And I'm allowed to change my mind because it's my choice. So, we are doing Euripides' play, Alcestis. But before we get to that, remember, blah, 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 shop, blah, 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 things, books, blah, 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 Redbubble, designs, support us, like, subscribe, comment, and share, or I'll jump out from under the bed and scare you witless. Okay. There we go. All good. Now, our play. Alcestis, or Polly goes and screws up mortals' lives again. This entire play was all Polly's fault. You think having the gods hate you is bad? Sometimes having the gods love you is just as bad, especially if that god is my brother cousin Polly, Apollo. He thinks he's doing a favour. He's not. He's not. Because he just doesn't take the time to understand things. But anyway, we'll get to that. So, Alcestis. Alcestis is the wife of Adamantus. Now, Alcestis is the one daughter of Peleus who did not participate in the killing him, chopping him up and dumping him in a cauldron in the hope of him getting renewed by Medea. So she is the one daughter who didn't get involved in that, and she was married to a man called Admantius. And Admantius was a king, and he at one point, after Apollo had done the bad thing of killing Father Uncle Zeus's Cyclopses, and had to serve a mortal as a shepherd, he did so in the court of Admantius. And Admantius was fated to die young. And Apollo, thinking he was doing something nice, because Apollo always does think he's doing something nice, he got the fates drunk and came up with a compromise situation. Admantius could live longer if he could find someone to voluntarily die in his place. So this is this is what has happened. And so at the time when he would have died, he has found someone. And is not someone he would have liked to have had. It's like, couldn't one of his, he sort of assumed it might have been one of his elderly parents, or maybe some nobody member of the country. But no, because being loved by Apollo is not a good thing. This is why he has such unlucky time in love. The person who volunteers to die for him is his wife, Alcestis, because Alcestis doesn't feel that she would survive his death anyway. She doesn't want to live without him, and she knows that the kingdom needs him. Their children are too young. It would be not good for anyone if he dies. And so this is what we start at the beginning of the play. And we have Apollo and Thanatos. Now, Thanatos isn't real. He's a theatrical device. Because we all know that the person who goes and collects the dead is not death. There is no death. That's a theatrical device that's invented later. People just die, and then Hermes comes and collects them. And the idea that we should all be afraid of Thanatos is like, please. It's part of the cycle. Anyway. Not that Apollo would understand that one. But, yes. Actually, he really doesn't understand that one, because it's not as if Father Uncle Zeus's Cyclops has actually got deaded. They just sort of, like the demons down here, they just sort of respawn. They're really quite resilient. I mean, how could they be actually deaded? They're not mortals. Only mortals get deaded. Anyway, Alcestis is dying, and she makes her husband promise that he will not introduce a stepmother into his life, a new wife into his life, because she fears for her children. She is doing this for him. She doesn't really want to be replaced like overnight. Like, how rude, how incredibly rude would that be? And Admantus promises her this. He promises a year of mourning. For the city to go into a year of mourning for her. He promises that he will never stop mourning for her. Sort of like Queen Victoria. Yes. Sort of a Queen Victoria thing, because of this. Now, so Alcestis dies. This doesn't have a lot of plot. Okay, so I just warn you about this. Alcestis dies, and everyone is absolutely grief-stricken. The palace is in mourning. Her husband and her children are obviously deeply upset. And into this comes blundering Heracles. I mean, that man. The things I could tell you about him. Mind you, he's down here too. Like Achilles. All of him. He's not a god. He's just a braggart. So anyway, Heracles is passing through on his way to. I don't think Adeimantus mustn't be the king of Thrace. I think he's the king of Thessaly, because Hercules is on his way to Thrace to tame the Thracian horses, those big vicious horses that eat meat and no one can tame. It's one of the labours after, Hera sent him mad and made him kill his wife and children. Well, actually, they didn't make him kill his wife and children. He killed his wife and children after Hera sent him mad because he's a brute. He's a brute. Do you think he's going to get to go upstairs? No, he doesn't belong topside. He doesn't belong upstairs. He's down here. He's down here and he doesn't like it, but tough. You think Auntie Hera was going to let that thing up there? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Auntie Hera was not letting that thing up there. Anyway, he turns up and Adeimantus lies to him about who has died because he feels that if he has to turn away his friend and be unhospitable, that will be even worse. And so he tells Heracles that the person who died was a member of the household who was adopted in, not a close family member. And tells Heracles to go off to the visitors' quarters, which are different from the main palace, and to enjoy himself there. So Hercules goes off. Next, Adeimantus's father comes in with goods to give to Alcestis, grave goods for Alcestis. And Adeimantus is really angry about why his father wasn't prepared to sacrifice his life. He's old. He complains about being old and all of this. But when the opportunity arises to make his death useful to someone, no, you don't want to do it. You leave my wife to do this. And they argue and they break. They are bitterly hostile to one another. Because the father's like, no, you don't get to demand somebody else's life like that. There's a king. I mean, frankly, they all do that. They do. Really. So there's no reconciling that. Adeimantus goes to bury his wife, and meanwhile Hercules is, the great big bore that he is getting drunk and having a wonderful time all by himself. And finally the servants snap. They just want to mourn their mistress. She was a beloved queen. She was a wonderful presence in the palace. She's now gone. Everything's awful. They don't want to deal with this drunken oaf. And so they snap. And they tell him off for being a drunken oaf. And what did you think you were doing accepting this hospitality? And what do you think you're doing being drunken and riotous when our queen has just died? And Heracles is, admittedly, he does actually show a degree of self-reflection, which I thought it was pretty good for Heracles, because I've met the man. He has never, ever, ever done so. So Euripides is doing quite the nice little propaganda job on him. Sucking up, when really he should be sucking up to Auntie Hera. Sucking up to Auntie Hera. Anyway. And Hercules is actually rather ashamed of how he's behaved. He decides he is going to go and fight death for Alcestis. He goes, and so he leaves. Adeimantus returns home from the funeral to an empty palace, and he won't go in spite of people saying, go in. But what's to go in for? He's realized that to buy life at that price is just, it's too high. Life ceases to have value when it's bought at the cost of somebody else's life. And this this is unnecessary. The reason why that she dies is because he won't. But ultimately, like a lot of those gifts of the gods, they're a bit of a poison chalice. You really don't want them. It's a bit of a poison chalice. Because, you know, if you've been bought life at such a price that it poisons the rest of your life and your reputation and your honor and everything else that you have of value, what's the point in living? Which is the point that Adeimantus gets to. He really has got to a point where he has messed up all his relationships, and what has he gained except for a life that doesn't have any meaning? Now, this is where the play is quite different to what really happened. So, let me tell you what really happened. So anyway, what really happened is Alcestis didn't die in the traditional sense. Alcestis had to actually come down to the underworld. Yes, she got picked up by Hermes, and she had to actually walk bodily down to the underworld. Because this was a one-to-one, and it wasn't actually her time, so she wasn't actually dying in that way. And so she had to walk down to the underworld with Hermes. And it turns out that Adeimantus followed her as he realized exactly how, you know, absolutely meaningless and awful his life would be, knowing that she had sacrificed herself for him, knowing that nothing would bring him joy, not their children, nothing. And so he follows her, demanding his own death. Now, so they get down to the Styx. They get down to Styx. And they are squabbling over who actually should cross. Hermes is standing there going, oh, one of you's got to. And Chiron is like, I don't care who it is so long as they pay me. Chiron's very like that. Very like that. Anyway, someone's got to go. Someone's got to cross. Someone's got to cross. But they are squabbling back and forth and back and forth and back and forth about how, you know, life without the other is meaningless, so let me. And meanwhile, all of this noise has attracted a whole load of the dead to the edge of the Styx, and they're watching. Because this is the most fun they've had in ages. This is the biggest thing that's ever happened to them for some time. Cerberus is just losing it. 3 heads, all of them going at once, losing it because there are dead all over the forecourt. They're not meant to be in the forecourt. There are 2 people squabbling on the side, and he's losing it like their postman's arrived. You know, just absolutely losing it. And so all of this commotion brings Hades and I down. Because it's like, what? Of course, we're on our side of the Styx, because if I cross the Styx, then that gets my smother involved, because suddenly, bing, I'm on her radar, and I don't want to be on her radar in my off season. So, you know, we are talking chaos down here in the underworld. It's the biggest thing that's happened in a very long time. Anyway, so we're down there looking at this as like, you know, Hades is trying to calm down. Cerberus, not happening. And it's like, what's going on? And, you know, Hermes tries to explain this whole thing to us, and it's like, it finally comes out, this is all Apollo's doing. Useless Apollo. Anyway, I have just about had enough of this. I mean, we got in I am sick of my brother going and fiddling about with the lives of ordinary mortals and promising them things that they can't have. Things like, oh, you can go back down into Hades and fetch your wife back. Yeah, right, thanks, Apollo. We really need another Orpheus situation. I don't want another Orpheus situation. I'm sick of I didn't like the Orpheus situation. I got a really, really cranky brother, because of the Orpheus situation. So, needless to say, I don't want to deal with that again. So, you know how I solved this? I solved this by, I told them both to push off and go away, and we'll have them back when they're old. Because, quite frankly, I don't need to deal with that. That is far more. Then we herded all the dead back. We got the dog calmed down. Hermes took them back up topside. And all celebration and loveliness. Now, in Euripides, Hercules fights death. And then he brings a woman to Admetus, who is deeply upset, obviously, and says that he won this woman and can you look after her until I come back? And, you can have her. And Admetus argues with him, and eventually it is revealed that Hercules reveals that he knows Admetus' secret, and that he has gone and fought death and wrestled her away from him and brought her back to him. So, it's all very nice, and Hercules manages to make himself look good because, frankly, he's a complete brute. But yes, it's one of those stories that's a tragedy which is turned into a happily ever after with a Deus ex machina, or in this case, a Hercules ex machina. But ultimately, it is a play about the fact that death is immutable. You can't trick it, you can't pay it off, you can't substitute for it. That this is part of life. And that even if you could pay off death, which is a nice little point that the character Thanatos makes, is if you could pay off death, then rich people would be able to buy their lives forever. And that is unfair, because death is the final equalizer of all human life. That is why there are gods of the dead, because it is part of the whole thing, part of the whole. If there's birth, there's death. And that this really, it's a play about the fact that this should be looked upon as a natural thing, not something to, that you can avoid. It's not that you want to rush headlong into it, but that you can't avoid it, therefore you have to accept it. Because what if you could? What if you could? Who exactly are you going to convince to die for you? And how much is that guilt and that grief and that cowardice going to just poison your life to the point that it's not worth living? So it is a play about that, but it's also a play about affirming life, because it's like, well, you don't know when it happens. You can't bargain with it. You can't substitute. You can't buy it. You just have to enjoy the life that you have and live now, because there's no getting out of the fact that it has an end. It's also an incredibly, in the character of Alcestis, who is only a small character, considering it's a play that has her as the title character. She sort of has a little bit of a scene. She actually dies on stage, which is very rare. Most of the deaths occur off stage in Greek theatre, but most of those deaths are very, very violent, and they're described. Alcestis doesn't die violently. She just dies. She's ill and she dies. So she actually dies on stage, which is rare. But it also adds to a lot of the power of what the play is doing, because it's able, you know, you see that you're not just getting it reported secondhand. It's sort of one of those things of the Greek plays, as the reporting secondhand of all the important things, like the last one we did, which was Antigone. Reporting all of that rather than seeing that always feels vaguely, like, very much colder, very much more removed. But then again, Euripides is a different kind of writer. He's not like Sophocles or Aeschylus. He is someone who didn't get the praises at the time, but he is somebody whose works have actually survived. So he is also somebody who uses a deus ex machina a lot more than other writers. So he's perfectly willing to pull a situation out of a complete devastating tragedy. So you don't get the same sort of catharsis out of a Euripides play as you get out of someone like Sophocles or Aeschylus. They give you utter devastation. Everybody dies. It's horrible. And now leave the theatre. Sort of like King Lear. But Aeschylus will go and put in a deus ex machina to, you know, pull it out just before it gets too bad. And I think that's probably why he was less considered than some of his contemporaries, because they were more likely to push it all the way. So it's sort of considered a bit bad taste. But these are plays that have survived as opposed to some of the others. He wrote a lot. He wrote a lot. And subsequently, certain ones, more of them have survived. But yeah, so it is an interesting little play. It's like Orpheus and Eurydice, but with a happy ending instead of a sad ending. And with the female, the woman being the one to make the sacrifice rather than being the one to do the rescuing. So it is a different sort of play. I'll probably bring it Stretch next time. Might change my mind. You never know. But anyway, you don't want Polly to be really excited with you and interested in you, because it always ends badly. He really doesn't understand how mortals work. Really doesn't understand. So you do not want Polly to be paying a great deal of attention to you. Let that be the lesson to you. And I will be back again with another play. So until then, bye-bye. If you would like to support this channel, come across to the Black Cockie Press website, www.blackcockiepress.com.au, where you will find books and other writing services to help with your writing.